Okay guys, my name is Mel Lieber and I'm the founder of Finance Premiums. I want to tell you a little bit about how Index Universal Life works and what is it. So Index Universal Life, commonly called IUL, what is it? So what it is a life insurance policy that has in it an investment element. Now this combo of a life insurance policy with an investment element could be structured in two basic ways. Either it could be structured with a focus on the life insurance benefit, trying to make sure that you get eventually after death that life insurance benefit, or it could be focused in a way that you want to earn money and grow your money for later on in life, perhaps retirement. Most of my clients use the IUL, the Index Universal Life, because they want to grow their money. They view it more as an investment than a life insurance death benefit. Now, how does it work? What are the pros? What are the cons? So the major pro of Index Universal Life, or how it works, is it's an investment in which you get the upside of an index of the market. It could be the S&P 500, it could be a low volatility index. Don't worry, I'll explain you later what that means. But you get the upside without the downside. Now obviously, don't worry, I know that sounds too good to be true. Let me explain. You don't get all the upside. You're not going to get the S&P 500, the stock market, when it goes up 30%, you're not going to get everything. But when it drops 30%, you won't lose 30% either. It's a safer product. You have a floor of 0, which means that when the market or the index that you invest in goes down, you do not take the loss. You stay where you are, outside of fees. And when the index goes up, depending on which index it is, you might not get everything. So let's say you choose the index. So if you choose, let's say the S&P 500, the stock market, so you're going to get between 9 and 15%, let's say, of the upside, depending on the time, depending on the policy, of the market. So let's just pick a round number, 10%. So when the market goes up 15%, you only earn 10%. When the market goes up 8%, you earn 8%. But here's the beautiful point. When the market goes down 20%, you don't participate in that loss. You stay where you are, outside of policy fees. So that is the positive of how it grows. Another way, which is a positive of how it grows, is that you are able to get away from that volatility. Meaning, in the stock market, even though it averages very nicely, you have to have the stomach to handle the losses. But this, relatively to the stock market, is much more calm. 0 is your hero. And actually, we could see that very often, historically, will actually outperform the stock market, and sometimes the stock market will outperform it. But that's not really the point. The real point is that it's a safer product. Another advantage that these investments have is something called living benefits, which are there to protect you not only in case of death, but even in case of severe injury, severe illness, you could potentially access benefits. And once again, that's going to be a whole nother video in which I explain how that works. Another point that should be kept in mind is that your investment grows tax-free. Now, tax-free is a huge benefit for many people. And especially as we expect later on in life, taxes are probably going to go up. Therefore, the advantage of tax-free gains could be huge. However, this benefit is not equal for all. For those high earners, for those who have lots of investments, this could be a tremendously beneficial point that you're going to be able to access your money tax-free. For those that are in lower income brackets, and especially for those that in retirement ages think they're going to be in a very low income bracket, that advantage is relatively much less. Now let me just explain to you. I want to show you how it works. I want to show you the benefit of how the crediting of being in between a 0 and 10% growth. Or if you get something called a low volatility index, you'll actually, it will never go down. You'll have that 0% floor, and you'll actually have unlimited upside. But don't worry, it's not as good as it sounds, because those low volatility indexes are exactly what they sound like. They're low volatility. So don't expect those indexes to ever go up 25% in a year. They're not designed that way. But when they go up 13, 15%, you could get the full upside. Let me show you how this works, and let me show you how the indexing of these IULs work and how it could be of benefit. So let me just turn you around over here and I'll show you how this works. Okay, let me just get this clear. Okay. Now, if in year one you start at this point, this is where you start, and the year one it goes up a little bit, it goes up, let's say 5%. That's your new starting point for year two. There's an annual reset value. And now, even if it goes down, you have that new point where the black line is reset, and that's your new point, and the cap is higher. Now, it went up 20%, you don't get the full 20%, because your cap is 10. But you're gonna lock in that 10% rate, and that's your new starting point for the next year. And now, since it went up, you're going to be able to get a new potential upside. But it went down, it dropped 20% that year. So if it dropped 20%, you stay where you are. You don't lose any money. And now, the following year, when it goes up, let's say another 10%, you get that full 10%, even though you end up in a place much higher than the market would have. Because every year, there's an annual reset. It locks in the price every year. That's something which could have tremendous, tremendous benefit. You know, if we look at how it's actually performed over the last 20 years, once again, I can't tell you that it's always the IUL is always going to outperform the S&P 500. It's not true. However, I could tell you that very often there is going to be outperformance of the IUL will outperform the S&P in many times, and it doesn't have the risks of the S&P 500. So let me just show you a little bit about how that works. Let me show you a little bit. If you look at this chart over here, you'll see that the red represents the S&P 500. Once again, we're showing the S&P 500 without fees, no management fees, and we're showing the IUL without fees because it gets much more complicated once you have fees involved. The IUL is a much more steady investment, steadily going up or straight, up or straight, up or straight, up or straight. And you see this $100,000 in the year 2000, by the time you get to 2022, we're at $500,000. So that is obviously tremendous. Whereas the S&P only got you to 261. Once again, with fees, it could be a different equation, but you see the potential power of the S&P, it's pretty wild. And that is just some of the benefits of the S&P 500, of the IUL, I apologize. But I want to point out there are some negatives of the IUL as well. It's not all nice and dandy. One issue with the IUL is there are significant fees in those early years. Now, I wish I could make it with no fees. I can't. However, I could tell you, when structured properly, those fees are no big deal compared to the taxes that you are saving in investing in this product. So that tax savings are going to be well more important than the associated fees. The second point I could tell you is when we use a strategy called max funding, where we set up the IUL in a way to minimize the fees, and once again, that's going to be a whole nother video, then those fees are much less of a factor. And it really depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to assets under management, where you have a money manager managing it, then the fees on the long run are way less in IUL than assets under management. However, if you're comparing it to one of these indexes that track, let's say, the S&P 500 with no active management, that like the SPY, for example, then those are obviously lower in fees. So that's true. There are things lower in fees, but you're not going to get the 0% floor, and you're not going to get the same tax-free benefits. Another point is since those fees are in there early, there is an advantage and a disadvantage in that. The advantage is when you have less money in the IUL, that's when you are getting the fees, and therefore they are taking a percentage of less amounts, as opposed to later on when the fees are very low from a percentage standpoint. That's when you have more money. That works in your advantage. However, what works to your disadvantage is that if you want your short-term focused, if you want your money back in the short amount of time, you want to put your money somewhere for 3 years, the IUL is not for you. Don't do it. The IUL is there only if you're in it for the long run. It's an amazing long-term investment for many, especially those in the high tax bracket. However, in the short term, it's not going to do so great. Don't expect glamorous results in the first 10 years. And I hope you guys listen. We're going to have some more videos coming.